Welcome to Tom Rhodes Radio Smart Camp, or as I like to call it, Tom Rhodes a fucking idiot. And he's lightly supported by a handful of people around the world. Hello, those handful of people around the world. It's your friend Tom. I'm sitting here, Jesus, the sun is going down on my overpriced motherfucking apartment that they're about to jack the rent on. Life has been difficult, to say the least. I want to start by saying I got so many nice messages from people. I read a lot of them on the last podcast. So many heartfelt, wonderful messages have helped me get through this difficult time in my life. Number one, Woody, my boy in London, he's also going through a divorce. But he's got 2 young kids, and I couldn't imagine how much more difficult it is for him than it is for me. And a few people that wrote me wonderful messages about divorces they went through or tough shit that they're going through in their life right now. It's just nice to know you're not alone, and it's kind of poetic that it's winter and. This has been like the worst winter in Los Angeles in 20 years. It's hard to complain about winter in Los Angeles, but it's been raining for most of the year and dark, and it even got down in the 40s, and I had to get my little scarf out. Yeah, I know people are getting pounded with snow and all kinds of nasty shit everywhere. So, anywho, through the dark days of winter, it's nice. To know that people empathize and sympathize with what I'm going through. Woody in London, I feel you, brother. And then the other nice thing is that's like really lifted my spirits is I got a few more Golden Buddha Patreon subscribers. Like I mentioned before, these last few months I just expected so many people to fucking give up on me. And the opposite has been the truth, and now I got a couple of new Patreon people, but they're people that they're fans who have become friends. That seems to be my pattern. Anybody who's like a fan and continues to support me will end up being a friend of mine. So I know these were people who listened to the podcast and were eating the grapes for free in the supermarket. And then finally decided to kick in some money. And I'm very happy. One of them, the people, who hasn't been listening to the podcast, but she just became a Golden Buddha, is this, it's so weird to call someone a fan. Because this woman, she's in London. Hey, Brianni, I'm about to talk about you. And I think when I first met her, she did an interview with me in London. Jesus, was that 10 years ago? And put the interview up on a comedy website or some comedy page, or even it was her journalism page. I forget which. But her and her boyfriend and even her mom and family normally come out to see me every time I perform in London. And so I get this surprise email from her the other day, and it's kind of funny because she said, and this is such an English way of looking at things, I think. She said she had not listened to the podcast in a year because she said, honestly, the happiness and the joy and the eternal optimism, you could only deal with that so much. But she started listening to the podcast again in recent months, and she saw that I was having some pain and some troubles, and that made her enjoy the podcast again. So I'm glad that my suffering has brought new joy to the listeners. But it's funny, okay, number one, it just tickles me silly that I got support and love coming out of London, and I fully understand what Brianni was telling me because I had a funny thing happen to me at the Comedy Store last night. There's this comedian. He's an older guy, and his name is Brian Holtzman. And this guy, he's not famous. He doesn't have like a podcast. But this guy, like when he goes on stage, a lot of the comedians will go in the back room and watch him because he's like a man basically having a nervous breakdown every time he gets on stage. And it's really exciting and it's politically incorrect. He did this big hunk about the New England Patriots, the football team owner. He got busted at some massage parlor soliciting for sex. And Brian did this bit about he knows a chiropractor in the Valley who said that Asians are born with an extra bone in their wrist where they're it makes them very good at giving hand jobs. I mean, it was a joke and it's completely inaccurate and it's horrifically politically incorrect, but fucking hilarious. And that's the kind of stuff this guy, he'll start screaming at the audience and berating them. And he's just so unique and original and so unpredictable. I love watching this guy. And I saw him when he got off stage last night, and he kind of echoed the sentiments of Briani. He said, "Hey, Tom," and this guy's always really complimentary when he sees me do sets and everything. He goes, I meant to tell you the last time I saw you, when you were happy and in love, I couldn't relate to you. But knowing that you're getting divorced and you're miserable, I think we can be friends now." And I thought it was so funny. But it's like, that's the way he genuinely feels. Because this guy, he's got a great sense of humor, but I think there's like a perpetual dark cloud over his life. And just the way he looks at things. And I thought it was funny that he felt like he couldn't really be friends. I always thought we were friends. But he felt like he couldn't really relate to me when I was happy and in love. Anyway, I thought that was funny. So, getting a text message. Anyway, the album is finished. Sorry, I'm distracted by the phone. Let me turn this motherfucker off. I don't owe these people nothing. I'm talking to my people. The little podcast family of Tom Rhodes. I'm talking in your ear. Speaking of the Comedy Store, before I go into the album, Brody Stevens committed suicide. I'm sure you probably heard about this. I don't know if you know Brody Stevens or were familiar with his work, but as the Brian Holtzman thing reminds me of him because Brody kind of had that style also where he was unpredictable and he could go off on tangents and he would do these silly one-liners and then he would go, "And now you laugh." And like, it's... I loved Brody Stevens. It seemed like he was having mental problems 2 years ago. And honestly, I thought that the guy had his shit together in the last year. And Brody Stevens is a guy I've always loved. And, there's always a lot of beautiful lunatics in comedy. It's one of the reasons I've always loved it and been drawn to it for people like Brian Holtzman or Brody Stevens. And the danger. And you see guys like that just like taking chances and speaking off the top of their heads and being politically incorrect, being dangerous and yelling at the people for how fucked up the world is. I really admire that, and it inspires me. When I see people like Brody or Brian Holtzman, it makes me want to be more dangerous and provocative and push the envelope as much as I can. So Brody Stevens, another reason I love the guy was he played baseball, and he loved baseball. And, for him to kill himself right before baseball season starts is really mystifying. And then the manager of the Chicago Cubs mentioned Brody on a press conference the other day, which I thought, Brody would have loved that. There's a memorial at the Comedy Store on March 11th, on Monday. I think it starts at 7. I'll be there, pay my respects to this guy. And Brody Stevens was such a sweet guy. I saw him 2 nights before he killed himself. And he stopped me as I was walking out of the Comedy Store. And he said, "Hey, Tom, I'm sorry to hear you're having some troubles now." And it's so funny that he was worried about me. And it was either the next day or yeah, I mean, maybe it was less than 48 hours later that he killed himself. But I've been thinking about that moment. Like, God, why wasn't I more perceptive to see that he was having a problem? But everybody I talked to at the Comedy Store felt the same way. That, God, why wasn't I more perceptive? And it's, he hung himself. I heard that he started some new, like he was taking some antidepressants that were working, and then he took some experimental new drug, and that's when things went bad for him. The word experimental in modern medicine kind of terrifies me now, because my sister, who died of breast cancer, she was doing fine on the normal regular chemotherapy. It was when she started a experimental treatment is when everything went bad. So apparently the word experimental is where shit went bad for Brody too. But beautiful guy. And it was really interesting that, like, the next 2 or 3 nights at the Comedy Store, I've been at the Comedy Store basically every night, and the Improv doing sets, is how much love everybody had for each other at the Comedy Store. Like, everybody completely floored. Everybody loved Brody. And, he would do those late sets sometimes in the main room when there'd be like 6 people, and he would do like an hour of just like wacky lunatic. This looks like a guy who was just released from a mental institution, which I guess that's the fine line that stand-up comedy can be. But everybody at the Comedy Store hugging each other, saying, "How are you? Are you okay?" And that's been kind of nice. That loving vibe at the Comedy Store. The other thing, there's a musician that I've loved forever. This guy Ryan Adams. I mean, there was like, okay, this is what I loved. He did an album called Whiskey Town where he was in this band. I always loved Whiskey Town. His album Heartbreaker, and then there's like 3 albums by the guy that I really, really loved. That song Dear Chicago, I always loved that. Whatever that album is. I think it's called Desire. Fuck, I don't even know. Anyway, it turns out he's kind of added to the list of modern creepy fucking weirdos. He's getting divorced from Mandy Moore, or they already got divorced. And anyway, there was some shit came out where he's been communicating online with some underage 15-year-old girl, and inappropriate texting and Skyping and shit like that. And it's weird. It's like I can't listen to the guy's music. And it was always like, especially when I was like having shitty times, because a lot of his songs are about heartbreak. One of my favorite song by him is Excuse Me While I Break My Own Heart. That and Come Pick Me Up, another great song. Steal all my records, screw all my friends. You know that song, Come Pick Me Up. Anyway, have not been able to listen to his music. Kind of feel, I don't know, ripped off. Like it was fraudulent. I believed in this guy. Yeah, and what the fuck? There was one other thing. Sorry, I'm just talking off the top of my head. Oh, that was it. I was looking through my CDs, and I saw an R. Kelly CD. And, I mean, I never listened to it. I never was a big fan. But, like, I pulled the CD out like I had found a dead roach and threw it away. Because he's such a sexual deviant weirdo. And I didn't even see the documentary. I did not throw away my Ryan Adams records. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for now. But, yeah, just not in a hurry to listen to the dude. Yeah, man, so it's funny. In the past, you know, and you know, I hope I've spoken as nicely about Ashna as possible. You know, like it's been mentioned to me that, like, on one episode we talked about where I said that I supported her for 10 years. Someone pointed it out to me that they didn't like that I had said that. And I don't feel that way. I feel like, and forget money, just, the friendly way we broke up and just split everything. I honestly feel like Ashna deserves half of everything because she didn't pursue a career for 10 years. She made her whole life about me. She helped me in every way with posting videos and photos and editing the podcast and all that shit. I don't have any bad feelings, and I think, like people always complain when they get divorced about giving up half of everything, and in my case, I want it known that, she fucking deserved it. I don't have any qualms about that. So what I was going to say was, in my past heartbreaks in my life, Jesus, especially like when my dad was killed by the drunk driver and then my little sister died of breast cancer, I had Ashna to help me through the heartbreaks. So now I don't have Ashna to help me through the heartbreak. And, January was rough. Spent most of January alone in my apartment crying, and I think that's why I've gained more listeners in London. They can relate to you crying in your apartment by yourself more than they can you being happy and in love and running through the park with balloons. But I think I've mentioned Hafiz has helped me, reading Hafiz. I've been listening to a lot of Tupac. I've been listening to a lot of early Kinks. Jesus, one of that period of the early Kinks, I think, is some of the greatest music ever made. Ape Man, dedicated follower of fashion, Waterloo Station, Sunny Afternoon. Jesus Christ, just so many good songs by the Kinks. And I think I mentioned this lightly on the last episode, but I didn't get to emote about it. Narcos Mexico. If you haven't seen it, watch Narcos Mexico on Netflix. I didn't think anything could beat the Colombia Pablo Escobar Narcos, but I think I like the Mexico one even better. And there's a character at the beginning of the series that I didn't like. I kind of mentally brushed this guy off thinking, yeah, fucking old dude or whatever. It's the character of Don Neto. And as the series progressed, he became my favorite character. And he says a couple of great lines in there. He says, even in sin, you can be a saint. He did something nice for somebody. Or his son got killed by this guy, and he decided not to kill him. And then he says, even in sin, you can be a saint. And then later, when the shit's coming down on everybody in the cartel, and he's got to go flee to Puerto Vallarta or wherever he goes on the ocean, he says that I love people more than money. And I thought I can relate to that. That's I value people more than money. And the thing is, the final scene, I don't want to ruin it for you, but I guess I'm about to ruin it for you. The last scene where Don Neto, he's by the pool and the Mexican army is coming in, and there's all these hookers and bikinis and drug dudes around, and he's sitting there with his weed pipe, smoking his weed, and he's listening. He's got like a Sony Walkman, and he's got the headphones on, and he's listening to music, and he's smoking his weed, and then you just hear the music that's playing in his head, and then these soldiers come in and they're just fucking killing everybody, and then the hookers are getting shot. Everybody's getting slaughtered except for Don Neto, who's sitting there in his beach chair next to the pool with his headphones on, and he's got hooker blood all over his face, and he's sitting there smoking pot, listening to music, and it's so far from any life that I would ever want to be a part of, but cinematically, I thought that was a symphony of violence, and just beautifully shot. Absolutely loved it. So, my new album is out, finally, around the world. And I want to praise Alex Dingley, the guy who has been editing this with me for the last 2 years. So I had the idea 2 years ago and then sent him what I could, or everything that I had already recorded. And then it was kind of fun over the last year. Like I would record in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, and then I would listen to the show that night or the next day, and then I would send Alex the show on WeTransfer or Dropbox, and then I would do my notes and email him the notes, say what I wanted. So that was kind of cool. And then in Beijing and Shanghai, it was kind of cool how like the shows were like happening and then being edited immediately for this album. And Alex is a great guy, and he did a brilliant job because a lot of the, some were in small comedy clubs, some of the shows were in big theaters. He did a really beautiful job of balancing out the sound. Anywho, so I've been through the grieving process. The cycle of grieving, as you all know, is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. So I guess I don't know if I've hit acceptance yet, but I think I've definitely moved past bargaining, and I'm solidly in depression. And I just got 3 more Golden Buddha Patreon listeners from London. The more you say your life sucks, the more people from England follow you, and it's so good to laugh in my apartment by myself instead of crying. So I had a funny thing happen. I don't know if my lease is going to be up. God, right when I start this UK tour in May, and I'm trying to decide, should I put everything in storage and then go to England for 2 months for this UK tour where I'm opening for Reginald D. Hunter, or find a new apartment, or just suck it up and try and stay in this apartment one more year. I really like this apartment. The fear I have is if I put everything in storage, that the last time I did that, it was 10 years. And then I'll be in no hurry to get everything out of storage just to, save some fucking money. But I really have enjoyed having a home. And, the first, January, I was like, oh, I got to get out of this apartment. I could see Ashna in the kitchen cooking, and all the memories of us watching movies and eating popcorn. And now I'm like, fuck that. I really like my apartment. I don't want to fucking move. It's funny, I got this 1-bedroom apartment, and the one good thing about getting divorced is when Ashna left, I doubled my closet space. And I used to have to take my shoes off when I entered the house because that's the way Ashna wanted it. Now I fucking leave my shoes on. There's leaves on my floor. I don't give a shit. And, I don't have to use plates or bowls anymore. I can just eat shit right off the counter if I feel like it. And I'm trying to work out some stuff on stage about the divorce. I think the most interesting thing about getting divorced is the person who knows you better than anybody in the world saying, yeah, I've had enough. No thanks. I'll get off at the next stop. Anyway. Ashna and we saw each other last week because Alain Dubaton was giving a free speech at the Last Bookstore downtown. And the Last Bookstore is this used bookstore. It's supposed to be the best bookstore in Los Angeles. I had never been there. And Ashna is the one who turned me on to Alain Dubaton. And he's my Justin Bieber. I love this guy. And he writes books. He makes BBC specials. And if you're unfamiliar with Alain Dubaton, He also has this thing called School of Life, and they make videos. So, I mean, you don't even need to read the books. Just go to YouTube and watch some of these School of Life videos. Like one of the books that he wrote, one of the specials he did is called Why You Will Marry the Wrong Person. And a big thing that he says when we're first dating somebody, you're trying to show your best self, and you're trying to impress the other person because you want them to like you. But his opinion is that we should come from the starting place that the first thing you should say to somebody is, so what's crazy about you? And then you tell them what's crazy about you. And that because those are the things that are eventually going to affect a relationship adversely or beneficially. I think it's interesting. What was his other thing? Oh, he said when you're dating somebody or when you're living with somebody or when you're married and you talk to a coworker or a friend, and he said, like, someone will say, like, what did you do this weekend? And you go, oh, my wife and I repainted the garage, or we sanded the cabinets, some wood thing or whatever. And your coworker or your friend will say, oh, that's romantic, or, oh, that doesn't sound romantic. He said whenever it's a situation where somebody would say something like that, those are the most important elements of a relationship, because you helping each other or, making your home great or doing the shitty little tasks that are not romantic are actually more important than anything that is romantic. And his opinion is that the notion of romantic love is what fucks us up, because we should be finding out what's crazy about each other, where you need help, and helping the person instead of this false personality that you're trying to present to someone to make them love you. And wipe the snot off your face. So here's a little thing. There's a couple. I like the location of my apartment because I'm very close to the comedy clubs. But I've got this eucalyptus tree outside of my balcony, and it's been cold, but the balcony is probably my favorite thing about this apartment. And in the morning, there's hummingbirds that buzz around this eucalyptus tree. And it's Jesus Christ, I can't tell you how happy this makes me. In January, was it January? Maybe it was the beginning of February. I don't know. It's been fucking, it's been one long shitty year. I had my door open, and a hummingbird got into my apartment. And I got these tall ceilings, and above the door is this big glass window. And the hummingbird just keeps banging up against the window. It's trying to get through the fucking window. It can't understand the concept of glass. So I tried to get the thing down with a broom, and then it was flipping out and buzzing away from me. And I had to go somewhere. I forget, I had to do a set, or because it was like around, dusk or sunset when the thing got in the apartment. And then I couldn't get the thing down, and now it's dark. I had to go somewhere for a few hours. So I left the balcony door open, hoping that this hummingbird would figure it out and get out of the apartment. I come back 3 hours later, and the little hummingbird is still flying into the glass above the door. So obviously, it must be tired and exhausted and frightened. I got the broom, I got on a stool, and then I got this very soft, it looks like a net, but it's like a beach bag, laundry bag. It's really soft and looks kind of netty. So I got this thing, and then I got the broom, and I moved him down to the bottom of the window, and now the hummingbird is trusting me. I think it felt like it had no options. And I threw the little net over him, and then very gently, put the broom down, and then I took the hummingbird, And I got off the stool as gently as I could, and I let him out, and that thing whoosh, zipped away. And I saved the little hummingbird. And I swear to God, 3 days later, I'm standing on my balcony, and this hummingbird pops up. It came up like from under the balcony, pops up directly eye level with me, and stood there perfectly still, looking me in the face for like 30 seconds, at least 20 seconds. It was like 30 seconds. And then it buzzed off and it shot away. And I know it was that same hummingbird because I felt like it was coming back to thank me. Or maybe it was his mom. But I think the hummingbird knew I had every chance to kill it. And I did everything I could to save the little fucker. And, that's what I want the universe to do to me. Even if I'm too afraid and stupid to realize someone's trying to save me. I hope they don't give up. So, okay, well, oh my God. Oh, okay, listen. Got to tell you some more important shit before we hit the end. The world is falling apart. We all know that. Did you see Cocklick, President Cocklick, or as I like to call him, the urine pawn, because obviously he's the pawn of Putin over the urine tape. I thought what a rough week. Michael Cohen came out, said that he was racist and all this shit, and he's a crook, and we all know that. And they should open up his taxes, and we should see how deeply embedded and in debt he is to the Russians that makes him do everything in Vladimir Putin's benefit. And dismantling NATO, trying to disrupt the European Union, making friends with dictators, Kim, and then the Saudi Arabian prince who killed Khashoggi. I think the Christians in this country have made a pact with the devil, and they're never going to recover. I think we're probably headed for a civil war. Because these morons, to be so staunchly supportive of this fucking demonic evil piece of shit is pretty terrifying. And the fact that more Republicans, or any Republicans, aren't... I mean, what? Rand Paul just stood up and he's going to vote against Trump's emergency declaration of to build his wall. It's funny, he wants to spend billions on a wall that doesn't work because most of the drugs come in through the legal ports, and most undocumented immigrants arrive on airplanes. But he wants to spend billions on a wall instead of people having basic affordable health care or basic affordable university education. Like I said, going to Jerusalem made me less of a religious person, but I don't know if I would ever in my life say I was a Christian again, for the people who say they are Christians and support this guy. And specifically, everyone in my family who claims to be such great, noble Christians and support a guy who is anti-humanity and anti-fucking helping anybody. So, he's a cunt. Anyway, all right, that was that ramble. But things are going to change. I'm going to... this is the news flash I wanted to tell you. I'm home for one more week, and then I go to Tampa. What are the dates? Tampa! I'm at Tampa, Side Splitters in Tampa, March 13th through 16. And then I'm in Lexington, Kentucky, the 21st through the 23rd. I'm going to go see my mommy in Orlando. Not going to talk politics because she gets so worked up. And she doesn't see that she voted for the Antichrist. My mom is going to move and is going to sell her house. And I need to get all my shit out of her attic, whatever is left in there. And this is the news bulletin that I want to alert you to. So mostly what I have in her attic is like career shit, and I know that I have there's 2 or 3 boxes that are full of scripts from the Mr. Rhodes sitcom, from when I had my sitcom. And like I said, I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. I got to get it. My place is already stuffed with books and knickknacks and shit. I'm going to probably throw away most everything that's in my mom's attic. So, I mean, and I will probably keep a few of my favorite Mr. Rhodes scripts just, to have them. But if you desire a script from the Mr. Rhodes show, send me an email via my website, tomrhodes.net. Well, here, I'll give away my email. It's tom@tomrhodes.net. Send me an email. And I don't know what I would sell it for. Because there's a lot of those scripts. And if there's a specific, if you were a fan of my sitcom and there was an episode that you enjoyed, and you want that particular script, let me know and I will get it for you. But the cast was amazing. Stephen Tobolowsky, Ron Glass, Jensen Ackles, who's a big star now, Lindsay Sloan. I don't know what happened to her. I used to love her. Anyway, I don't know. 2 for $20. What's it worth? Give me $10 for shipping and handling, and buying the fucking envelopes and standing in line at the, so maybe, $30, I'll send you 2, whatever you want. Anyway, I don't know. Send me an email if you want a Mr. Rhodes script. And I know I even have blueprints from the sets. So who knows? Maybe I'll send you some things. If you want a script, send me an email. We'll figure it out. And then I got all these like T-shirts and I don't know. If you're interested in some old rock T-shirts or shirts that I have, send me an email like from places. I'm going to be getting rid of all that shit. But I think the thing that's probably of interest to anybody who might be my fan would be the stuff from the Mr. Rhodes show, which I'm probably going to throw away most of that shit. So let me know. Okay, so I think that's everything that I wanted to tell you. I basically just wanted to record. God, I've been so fucking stressed out about this rent increase, and I don't want to move. I fucking just lost everything. I would at least like to stay here. I have no idea where my life is going, and it reminded me of when I was 36 and I was living in Amsterdam. And there's a Scottish comedian, Stu Hu. I was doing a gig with him. And my late night talk show ended in Amsterdam. And I had no idea what was going to happen in my life. And I thought I was going to have to move back to the United States. And I was stressing at that moment. And he and I had done a gig. And we're driving back from the gig. And I remember telling him, man, I'm 36. And I don't know where my life is going. And he said, to be 36 and not know where your life is going is a gift, because most people at that age know exactly where their life is going. They're going to a job they hate. They're going back home to a wife they hate and kids that they can't relate to and all this shit. And he went on this big speech just about what a gift it was to not know where your life is going. And so I've tried to remember that. I'm 52 years old now. And to try and look at it as, and oh my God, Phyllis in Dallas sent me a beautiful message. And then also my friend Mark in San Francisco, that, I can write whatever I want my life to be now, and that it's pretty exciting. So anyway, I wanted to just record this today, because I want to start trying putting out an episode once a week again. Now, here's this thing, and I wanted to end the podcast with, like my mom like, Jesus, my mom was sending me, and I told you before, my mom thought I was suicidal. Um, After she heard one of the podcasts with Ashin and I, I'm like, no, not me, babe. Not checking out. And nor should you. There's just uh, suicide. It's not an option. I know there's too much cool shit ahead of me. And my mom was sending me these religious pamphlets, and I had to ask her to stop. Well, why, honey? Why do you not like them? I said, no, you've already sent me the same batch. She'd sent them like a month before, and then a month later she sends the same ones. And she said, oh, I have so many I couldn't keep track of. So I don't want any religious pamphlets. And, I'm enjoying the suffering. And I'm glad that that somebody in England finds humor in that. And that the comedian, Brian Holtzman, thought that now that I'm suffering, we could be friends. Because everything comes from feelings in artwork and writing. And, oh my God, thank God I've had the book to be focused on my fucking book. That's helped me through this shit. But I'm really enjoying feeling my feelings. And even though things have been shitty. And then, like, you see, like, Brody Stevens kills himself. And then I realize, well, I guess I wasn't feeling that bad. Because it never crossed my mind to fucking hang myself. But, like, I know feelings are where the best comedy and artwork and writing comes from. So, I'm just, I'm simmering in the shittiness of where my life is right now. I'm sautéing in heartbreak. But, I found this thing that my mom sent me years ago. Like and this was the thing. I'm giving my mom credit. I'm putting her down to build her up. So, like, she sent me these religious pamphlets, and I'm like, don't send me that shit. And, moms, they love you, and thank God for moms. And like I say on my Jerusalem track of the new album, I think my mother might be the love of my life, but I'll let you buy the album. And have you bought the album? It's the least you could do. So this thing on humor. I don't know where she copied this out of. It's like Xerox pages. And I found this, looking through some shit. And I thought, oh, I'll end the podcast with this. But this is about the importance of humor. So on this, and it's like a Xerox pages. It's not that many. But anyway, I'm going to read this to you. And I think this is called Loving Each Other in Joy. It sounds like a religious thing, but it's actually really excellent. So there's a few quotes to start off this article. The only thing worth having in an earthly existence is a sense of humor. Lincoln Steffens said that. Happiness is a man's greatest achievement. It is the response of his total personality to a productive orientation towards himself and the world outside. Eric Fromm. No man is happy unless he believes he is. Publius Cyrus, 50 BC. Okay, so I want to end today's podcast by trying to enrich your life with wisdom and laughter. Let's go. And like I said, this is called Loving Each Other in Joy. It seems to me that deep relating without joy, laughter, and a sense of humor is an impossibility. That is, perhaps, why all saints are said to be transcendental clowns. Conrad Hyers, in his book Zen and the Comic Spirit, suggests that the demons of desire and attachment, ego and ignorance, may be exorcised through laughter, and point us to a kind of cosmic laughter that is to be entered on the other side of this exorcism. I like that. They're like, laughing at something and making a joke is actually an exorcism. That's what I always say about Voltaire, where, he felt that once you joked about something and laughed about it, you could never hold it sacred again. once you had made fun of something and laughed at it. So I like this metaphor that jokes and laughter is sort of an exorcism. Okay, I'll shut up and keep reading. I'm certain that we have all been reminded many times that life is not to be taken casually, that it's damn serious business. To a certain degree, this may be true, but that seems to me to be all the more reason to maintain and develop a keen sense of humor. In fact, I know that I have been saved again and again by my ability to see the humorous side of a situation, especially to laugh at myself and my imperfections. I know it takes courage and a degree of borderline insanity to smile and laugh in a world where, since the beginning of recorded history, we have continued to kill, rape, desert, and hurt each other. We've been, until now, unable to find reason for all of this. Perhaps the giving up of a reason and the acceptance of our humanness as the ultimate joke may offer us another alternative. Mother Teresa of Calcutta, who serves constantly among the despairing, the hungry, and the dying, requires that her hospital wards be filled with laughter. She sees the sound of laughter as the strongest force towards health, productivity, strength, and spirituality. St. Francis of Assisi wandered the streets like a clown, laughing at despair. Okay, now you see, obviously Mother Teresa was still alive when this was written. And I love the story of St. Francis of Assisi, but I never heard that he wandered the streets like a clown, laughing at despair. Maybe if I did that to the homeless people in the neighborhood, they might not appreciate it. But I'll look further into that. St. Francis of Assisi wandered the streets like a clown, laughing at despair. Ha ha ha! Poverty, death, misery. St. Teresa of Avila always looked for novices who knew how to laugh, eat, and sleep. She was sure that if they ate heartily, they were healthy. If they slept well, they were more than likely free of serious sin. And if they laughed, they had the necessary disposition to survive a difficult life. The symbol of the laughing Buddha, fat and healthy, represents the essential joy of Buddhism. In fact, among the Zen Buddhists, laughter and happiness are the core of their teachings. There is a level of humor to be found sprinkled lightly over every religious sect. Philosophers throughout our history have stressed the necessity of joy for survival. In 451 BC, Sophocles, for instance, reminded his students that the man from whom the joys of life have departed is living no more, but should be counted as dead. Wow. I guess I was dead in January. The philosopher George Santayana has said, happiness is the only sanction of life. Where happiness fails, existence remains a mad and lamentable experiment. There is no duty we so much underrate, Robert Louis Stevenson reminded us, as the duty of being happy. Even the Constitution of the United States guarantees us the pursuit of happiness as part of our constitutional rights. Still, in our time, there is pitifully little joy demonstrated. There seems to be something not quite right about those who are happy. It is common belief that there must be something wrong with contented people. We look at them as either fools, frivolous, or totally lacking in ordinary common sense. They are suspect. Most of us actually feel guilty when we're happy. We're convinced that we will either be punished for it or that gloom will not be too far behind. D. Raymond Moody, in his fine book, Laugh After Laugh, states that it is well to recognize that some persons are actually fearful of joy, elation, pleasure, or other usually positive emotional states. And many of these people, being joyful causes them to have feelings of guilt, shame, or unworthiness. My father used to say it all the time. My father used to say, some people just can't stand prosperity. Like when things are going good and you fuck it up. Okay, this is certainly strange. These scientists almost totally avoid the study of joy, laughter, humor, and happiness, and its relationship to human well-being. Lin Yutang writes, I have always been impressed by the fact that the most studiously avoided subject in Western philosophy is that of happiness. It is rare that we hear spontaneous, uproarious laughter. If we do, we are certain that the revelers must be ne'er-do-wells or drunk. We pay large amounts of money to get professional comics to make us laugh. We tumble over with laughter when they mimic our sane behaviors, and in this way reveal our follies. We love clowns in strange attire. They participate in outrageous antics and engage in divine madness to help us see the simple truth about humanity. For a time, their behaviors set us free from the straitjacket of convention. The predictability of a routine life and the expectations of behavior. They touch the deep desire within all of us to let go of inhibition and get in touch with our natural spontaneity, our natural madness. In a very real sense, we are all of us clowns, some more fearful and inhibited than others, but nonetheless potential clowns. Comics view life through a microscope and are, therefore, able to show us clearly what we already know unconsciously, that life is a wonderful joke. Yeah, I need to be reminded. I've lost touch with that. And that we human beings, in our studied seriousness, are often at the center of it. All right, let's read that paragraph again. Comics view life through a microscope and are, therefore, able to show us clearly what we already know unconsciously, that life is a wonderful joke, and that we human beings, in our studied seriousness, are often at the center of it. It sounds like a paragraph a mom would really like. I was recently asked to help plan with some friends a real Italian wedding. As with most ethnic groups, weddings are, for Italians, only slightly less important than births. In this case, the planning had taken on monumental proportions, all leading to loud, lusty arguments and empty solutions. It all reached a peak when it was announced that the mother of the bride was a vegetarian. What to do now with the masticcioli and meat sauce? It took Grandma to set everything straight. Laughing all the time, she pointed out how silly everyone was being. So don't worry about the vegetarian. I'll stuff her a zucchini, everyone roared. The wedding was planned, and Giacomo Leopardi, the Italian philosopher, was proved right again when he said, "He who has the courage to laugh is almost as much a master of the world as he who is ready to die. We are funny. All we need to do to affirm this is to look about us." A wedding which should be the height of togetherness, love, and joy had almost come apart because someone didn't eat meat. Observe people in airports, in crowds, at parties, on busy freeways. How can we keep from laughing? A man is just informed that his flight has been canceled due to serious mechanical difficulties. He insists that the plane must fly, or he will miss his Chicago connection. A lovely girl sits at a party unwilling to make the slightest effort to mix, and leaves exclaiming what a dull party it was, and how unfriendly the people were. A person pushes or shoves his way to the box office, only to have to wait an hour for the movie to start. The driver goes at breakneck speeds to pass you up, only to have to wait at the next stop signal as you drive up smiling next to him. These are certainly laughable behaviors which we observe daily in our lives. Human beings are very comical creatures, and life provides us with so many opportunities for laughter. Now, all we need is to learn to laugh again. Fuck, that's what I need. I haven't laughed. Now all we need is to learn to laugh again. Did you hear that, people? I remember an old Jacques Tati film called Mr. Hulu's Holiday, which began at a train station in which there was a mob of people waiting for a train to arrive at track A. Suddenly there is a totally unintelligible announcement which comes through the speaker that produces a mad, inexplicable dash for track B. After a moment, there is another garbled announcement, and the same crowd pushes its anxious way to track C. At that moment, the train arrives at track A. I laughed about this for several minutes after the film was well into another episode, for I relived the many times Buscaglia ran up and down platforms, a part of a crazy crowd. Situations such as these, I'm certain, have caused George Santayana to say, "Laughter, as I have come to see it in my old age, is the innocent, youthful side of repentance, of disillusionment, of misunderstanding." That was nice. George Santayana said, "Laughter, as I have come to see it in my old age, is the innocent, youthful side of repentance, of disillusionment, of misunderstanding." Victor Borg said, "Laughter is the closest distance between two people. There is no more sure way of coming together with other human beings than through laughter." George Bernard Shaw, the great cynic philosopher, agreed that only by laughter can you destroy evil without malice, and affirm good fellowship without mawkishness. We have all known experiences when a shared laugh has changed what was just moments before a strained, anxious relationship into a warm, joyous, productive one. Happiness is connected etymologically and in reality with the word happen. It is always part of a happening in life which comes and goes. Only a fool expects to find happiness continually or to hold onto it once found. Happiness is always a byproduct of some feeling or action. Even knowing this, there are many of us who spend our lives frantically looking for happiness, constantly in mad pursuit of joy. We complain that our relationships are dull. We act as if these things are to be found out there somewhere. We seldom come to terms with the idea that happiness is in us. Soren Kierkegaard, recognizing that when a man, who as a physical being is always turned towards the outside, thinking that his happiness lies outside him, finally turns inward and discovers that the source is within him, is one of life's great insights. Fuck, that's where I need to arrive at. Maybe you too. Maybe the happiness is inside of us. Maybe we're responsible for our own happiness. Oh my God, what a revelation. We cannot look for joy as we do a lost article of clothing. We make our own happiness. We define it for ourselves and experience it in our own unique way. No one can be happy for us, nor tell us what should make us happy, though people will always try. The sad fact is that we fall into Madison Avenue traps, which convince us that happiness is the right drink, the flashy automobile, the scented deodorant, bursting with health cereal, or the special snack food. Even the wisest among us are seduced by the exuberant TV ad or the seductive graphic into believing that we, too, can change our lives if we switch to a new mouthwash. We never stop to think that there is nothing in the world which can be given or denied us that will bring us happiness unless we decide it. In fact, the happiest people in the world would probably still be happy if stripped of everything except life. What do you know? I recall when I was traveling through Asia that I was constantly encountering people who existed, according to our standards, at barely above a starvation level. Yet they lived in genuine joy. Their lives were filled with smiles, song, dance, and celebration of whatever they had. Of course, I am not advocating the naive illusion of the happy peasant. All who so desire should be able to rise above whatever social condition in which they were born and attain whatever prize they want for what they believe to be their betterment or happiness. What I'm saying is that nothing but life itself is necessary for humans to know joy and happiness. And that's the kind of shit that you forget when you're going through a divorce. When it's in winter, when you got no friends, when you're alone in your apartment. All right. That was a nice sentence. What I'm saying is that nothing but life itself is necessary for humans to know joy and happiness. I constantly had this affirmed in my work with handicapped individuals. I saw quadriplegics who smiled and laughed their way through life, while those working with them with every physical advantage were often miserable, unsatisfied, and depressed. It is strange that some of the happiest people I have ever known were those who seemed to have no particular cause to rejoice. They were simply happy. They seemed to have in common a singular courage, a willingness to risk, to fail, to let go, a belief in themselves, a wonderful resourcefulness, a trust in their creative uniqueness, and an ability to hold on to their dream. Motherfuck, that's good stuff. Let's read that again. I constantly had this affirmed in my work with handicapped individuals. I saw quadriplegics who smiled and laughed their way through life, while those working with them, with every physical advantage, were often miserable, unsatisfied, and depressed. It is strange that some of the happiest people I have ever known were those who seemed to have no particular cause to rejoice. They were simply happy. They seemed to have in common a singular courage, a willingness to risk, to fail, and to let go, a belief in themselves, a wonderful resourcefulness, a trust in their creative uniqueness, and an ability to hold on to their dream. Fuck, I need to get that last sentence burned in my skull. Trust in their creative uniqueness and ability to hold on to their dream. Amen to that, baby. All right, here's the last page. Perhaps much happiness is lost in the pursuit of it. Hawthorne, in his American Notebook, said that happiness always comes incidentally. Make it the object of pursuit, he stated, and it leads us on a wild goose chase and is never attained. He suggests that we should lose our way and follow something totally unrelated. And in that way, we often happen on happiness without ever dreaming it would be there. We are far too rational in our relationships, far too ordered, organized, and predictable. We need to find a place just this side of madness and irrationality where we can, from time to time, leave the mundane and move into spontaneity and serendipity, a level that includes a greater sense of freedom and risk, an active environment full of surprises, which encourages a sense of wonder. Here, ideas and feelings, which would otherwise be difficult to state, can be expressed freely. A bond of love is easy to find in an environment of joy. When we laugh together, we bypass reason and logic, as the clown does. We speak a universal language. We feel closer to one another. Joy, humor, laughter, all are wonderful, easily accessible tools for bringing comfort into a relationship. They can be used to overcome inhibitions and tension. Dr. William Fry of Stanford University has just recently reported that laughter aids digestion. Give up your antacids. Stimulates the heart and strengthens muscles. Give up jogging. and activates the brain's creative function and keeps you alert. Give up artificial stimulants. All this with a good guffaw. Joy and happiness are simply states of mind. As such, they can help us to find creative solutions. When we feel joyful, euphoric, happy, we are more open to life, more capable of seeing things clearly and handling daily tensions. When one laughs, the body secretes a special hormone that is a natural painkiller. Norman Cousins claims to have cured himself of terminal illness with, among other things, the power of laughter. Good, uproarious laughter of the roll in the aisle type causes all the vital organs to vibrate and jostle, much like what happens to us when we jog. So if we are too lazy to jog, we can laugh our way to health. Throw out the aspirin and giggle away despair. It's such a stupid sentence. Throw out the aspirin and giggle away despair. That sounds like an advertisement for a television show I wouldn't watch. What a funny sentence. Throw out the aspirin and giggle away despair. I might have to use that to promote this fucking podcast. It's such a goofy sentence. For years, I had been told that I was taking life too casually, that my attitude would surely lead me to wreck and ruin. A man of my professional background should be an example, firm, serious, with his feet planted firmly on the ground. With my 2 feet firmly planted on the ground, I found I couldn't get my pants on. With my feet in the air, it's easier now. I guess he's making a joke. Joy comes in our lives, Joseph Addison says, when we have something to do, something to love, and something to hope for. I've heard that before. Joy comes into our lives when we have something to do, something to love, and something to hope for. Live fully and with abandon. Love totally and without fear. Hope splendidly and never relinquish the dream. These will help us, but joy will only be ours when we choose it. As Abraham Lincoln reminded us, most folks are as happy as they make their minds up to be. Many a relationship has been saved by a good belly laugh. And then that's the end. And then in my mom's handwriting, in blue ink, she wrote at the bottom, "See how wonderful your gift is." Isn't that beautiful? So yeah, give your mom a break. Because like I said, she was sending me this shit that I didn't want, and like religious pamphlets, and then I came across this, and you know what? My mom might have mailed this to me, I think maybe in the early 90s when I was living in San Francisco. She probably found this somewhere, and I've held on to it. And I don't even remember where I just found it. I was like, oh, that looks familiar. And so give your mom a break. Even though, friends and moms, hit or miss on attempts to cheer you up and keep your head pointed in the right direction, every once in a while, they'll give you a little gem like that. And it was interesting that the thing that the writer was saying about the people with disabilities and quadriplegics being happier than the people who were tending to them. The last time I was in London, and I know I talked about this on the podcast when it happened, but it was a new part of London I had never stayed in, and it was near the Thames River, and I think it was like BBC 4 was in that neighborhood, and we were staying in an apartment. And there was a couple of hospitals in that neighborhood, and it was a sunny day. What was it? I think Vauxhall is the tube station right on the Thames. I think I was like 1 or 2 stations before that. So I think it was probably like a 10-minute walk from the river, and there was hospitals around, and there was a sunny day, and there was a woman I saw, and I think maybe she was like in her 20s or maybe 30s. I don't know. I just suspected that she was young, and she had 2 full arm casts and 2 full leg casts, and her head was bandaged, and she was on crutches, and you could see by what was showing of her face through the bandages that she was a horrific burn victim. And this woman, I'll never forget it as long as I live, she's walking so slowly on the crutches, and it was like that. It was shitty London weather, and then all of a sudden there's like a nice sunny day, and this woman was by herself on crutches, going at a snail's pace, and she had the hugest smile on her face. And I thought, who knows what that woman had just been through? Maybe it took her like a year of being in the burn unit before she could be strong enough to be outside and walk by herself in the sunshine. And she had such a smile on her face, even though it looked like she had been burned to a crisp and broken her most vital bones for walking and shit. So it's funny, my old best friend Lou Angelwolf used to say to me years ago when I was young and I used to have a problem, he would go, "You need to walk to a burn unit, kid. You don't have any problems." And I think about that whenever I want to feel bad about life and shit. And he always goes, "You need to walk through a burn unit. See some burn victims." But I did see a burn victim in London, and she seemed very happy with the achievement and the triumph that she was experiencing. Okay, so that's it for today, everybody. I will prepare more thoughts and get you another. I guess I should stay on the miserable side for a while and get more listeners and people supporting the podcast. So I will dive into misery. I'm joking. All I care about is fucking jokes now and making people laugh. And I know life will be okay. And that's it for now. So, yeah. Long may you run. And shalom, amigos y amigas. Who knows where life will take us? Let's find out.
Tom Rhodes, you're a funny man. Tom Rhodes, you're an international comedian. Tom Rhodes, karate kick, baby, oh yeah. Tom Rhodes, you're a groovy dude. You go all around the world, telling jokes to all of the people. You are an international comedian. You're funny to everybody in every single country in the world. Tom Rhodes, I like you very much. I think you're talented and very wonderful. Tom Rhodes, you're the best guy in the world. I wanna be your friend, you should call me sometime. Here is my phone number, 603-644-0048. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tom Rhodes, you're an international comedic sensation. Tom Rhodes, I like to listen to your podcast. Tom Rhodes, you're the best man to ever walk on the earth.